will Mauricio Pochettino achieve, Perry, with Chelsea, if given time, what he couldn't quite deliver with Spurs? Will he win silverware? How long does he realistically get to whip Chelsea into shape before he is the latest manager in the Premier League, in those leading European clubs, before fans say, we scrutinise, we ask questions of you?
Yeah, but he's going in at a really good time for a manager because it's a very low bar, isn't it, that's been set. Obviously, Chelsea come in 12th last season. And then when you look at it, they were 8 points behind Fulham, so not even the best club in West London at the moment. So, and 15 points behind Brentford. Just shows you how terrible their season was. And I saw them play at the Emirates, and their players didn't try. In the first 25, 30 minutes, there was complete apathy. And you could tell that, and you could tell that the culture...
it's a good position to start at, isn't it?
Yeah, it was when you're only going in as a manager. And he's right what he says. He is under pressure because the culture at Chelsea over the last 20 years has been a winning culture. And if under Abramovich, if a manager didn't deliver, you could actually win trophies under Abramovich and still get the sack. So with Pochettino, realistically, and he knows that the pressure for him is getting Chelsea into Champions League positions because that's how bad they were. They got absolutely no chance of winning the Premier League. But a manager he's experienced, they do have a chance of getting themselves in the top four. Because what had happened, you mentioned when he did so well at Spurs, which he did. You know, he got Spurs playing really attractive football on the front foot. Like Dele Alli had his best time of his career under Pochettino. Obviously, Harry Kane then started to come and be more prevalent because he was a younger player when Pochettino was there and become a main player. Pochettino wasn't backed at Spurs because Daniel Levy didn't back him.
And that's the reason they didn't win silverware.
Yes, because at that time, when they got to the Champions League final against Liverpool in 2019, and to be honest, I was going to emigrate if they'd have won that. My boy lives in Sydney. I asked him to get a flat next to him because I couldn't live in this country if they'd have won that. I was done and dusted. But it wasn't just backing on the players that he needed to get in. He didn't get backed on the players he needed to get out because there was players like Danny Rose, for instance, that he wanted. Alderweireld would just like come into the end.
Up with a bloated squad.
Tonga, exactly, yeah.
And to him, really.
Yeah, and then obviously the relationship between those two broke down. So I think that Daniel Levy was at fault for that because Pochettino deserved to be backed. When he's at Chelsea, financially he will be backed because Todd Bowley's gone in and spent scattergun money on 600 million quid, obviously getting bad advice, not buying the right players coming in for right positions. So then you get a bloated squad. But with him going in there, as I said before the break, even though he didn't take over till July the 1st, I'll guarantee you that he would have had a conversation, obviously, with Todd Bowley, and actually said, right, this bloated squad that you have, these are the players that I want out of the door. If you can get rid of them. I don't think Mason Mount would have been one of those players, to be honest, because he suits
just
the way.
Just a few: Mount, Loftus-Cheek, Kovacic, Havertz, just to name a few that have gone from Stamford Bridge as Chelsea thin the herd, get squad numbers down. Several off to Saudi Arabia, we know as well, Perry. Was that always going to be the priority for Pochettino? Does it help Poch get control of things early at Chelsea? Does it help Pochettino set the tone from day one at Chelsea?
Yeah, I think he's grown.
A new Chelsea?
I think he's grown in stature himself, and I think that he's very holistic in his approach. He will make the club. He'll bring the club together. If you speak to, I spoke to Graeme Roberts quite a lot about the back room staff at Spurs and all the people. If you worked in the canteen, if you worked as a groundsman, Pochettino would come and say good morning to you. He knew everybody's name, and it's about creating that culture of togetherness, which Chelsea was very, very fractured. But I think he's stronger in his principles now. Managing a team like PSG, where the expectation basically is, and he'd have known that if you don't win the Champions League, you're probably going to get the sack. So he won Ligue 1 with PSG, and he won the domestic cup there, and he had to deal with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. So that gives you problems with the biggest profile players in the world. So it doesn't hold any fears for him.
He says he's improved since the last time he managed in the Premier League.
Yeah, because he's used to managing those egos, and he's used to his management skills will get better.
Well, I think good managers bring progression, great managers win things, and we'll have to wait and see if Pochettino can win things in the Premier League here in England.
But when he said there, and he knows as well, because Todd Bowley said about Graham Potter, oh no, this is a project. You know, we see Graham here for the long term. And you actually think, no, at big clubs, if you don't win for 3 games, you're under pressure. There's always one big club that's in turmoil, isn't it, in the media and the national papers. And obviously
there's always one or two that aren't delivering what they should be.
Yeah, and the expectations, and then fans will turn. And I think as well, with his links with Spurs, I think maybe the Chelsea fans will have maybe less patience because of that link. You know, historically, you know, where Spurs and Chelsea have that, shall we say, animosity for each other. We'll use that sort of word. But I think Chelsea fans will be going into season because Pochettino is a top manager. I don't think he's in the Jurgen Klopp, Guardiola, Ancelotti league yet, but there's every chance that he could get there. And I think he sees Chelsea as the project. I've said project, but he sees Chelsea as the club that could get him there, because the expectations for Chelsea this season are, I would have thought, you have to get yourself in the Champions League positions. And then if he's got no other cup competitions during the week where he can work on his team, obviously Monday to Friday, well, that as a manager helps you implement your ideas, you know, a lot quicker, a lot easier.
We know Nkunku, don't we? Nicholas Jackson so far in for the Blues. We know they'll have to stump up more than 100 million, reports suggest, to sign Moise Caicedo. How many do they need? Where do they need? What do they need?
Well, Nkunku and Jackson are interesting because Nkunku, he averages like 1 and 2 for RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga. Nicholas Jackson, I think he's one that maybe is a squad player. Obviously, played at Villarreal, got 12 in 26 in La Liga last season. I think he's more of a focal point, but they're both very, very mobile. And it's a big ask to ask them to be your number one sort of centre forward. But
neither of our centre forwards.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a big ask because
how much have they spent under Todd Bowley and still not
got a centre forward? Well,
unless you think Romelu Lukaku still could have a future at the football
It was
club.
interesting when Pochettino said there, like, the players coming back, I expect them to come and sit down and have a conversation with
Lukaku this week.
I think from Lukaku's point of view, I think he realised that at Chelsea the ship has sailed. I think he thinks he's had sort of 2 goes at it.
Hasn't sailed. He's back next week.
No, but I mean for him to play for Chelsea in the long term.
Why?
I think that he sees his future in
new manager,
Serie A.
Need a centre forward. Lukaku is their football player. Why? We know Juventus want him. We know Inter Milan want him. But why has the ship sailed?
Because he's wanted there by Juventus, Inter Milan, and his goal scoring record.
Chelsea should want him right now.
But his goal scoring record is far more impressive in Serie A than what it is in the Premier League. I think in the Premier League he had 1 season where he scored 20 plus goals. And I just think he probably thinks it's time for us to cut ties and say, right, hasn't really worked. Let me go and play in Serie A.